Yes, good night. This is the Cutting Edge and IRFM there with you. And next Wednesday, yes, in the year 2019. So Burning Space hardly, well, he hardly cover tune. But there was a group named the Grateful Dead. I don't know how much you know about the Grateful Dead. Them come perform one night, one festival down a Mobile there, where them used to call the Bob Marley Center there. May I tell you? Well, anyway, the lead singer Jerry Garcia. You know, this is one of the only tune I stand to be corrected that Burning Spear actually cover from a group. Here we go. As we have said, this is one of the only tune I know the Burning Spear cover from the Grateful Dead. A group, one of the biggest rock group ever. Grateful Dead. Yeah, this is the Cutting Edge on IRFM. Today is the 9th. Today the 9th, yeah, well. You know, on the 7th, we should talk about the 6th first. On the 6th is Kojo birthday. That is Kojo the Maroon, so-called. They were like say Maroon still, but so it go. On the 7th is Orthodox Christmas, them call it. Now, a whole heap of one narrow it down to Ethiopian Christmas. I want to tell the one them, you know, that the 7th of January, so-called Christmas, and the 25th of December, so-called Christmas. The only difference, you know, is that a group, a church, separate themselves from the Roman Catholic Church and decide, say, them are going to do it according to film tradition on the 7th of January. No, I don't know how I hear some Rastaman call it Rasmus. I don't know what the hell they're talking about, Rasmus. Or Christmas, Rasmus. It's the same confusion. I don't care what nobody wants to say. It could have come from Ethiopia a little more, or Armenian a little more, or Greek Orthodox a little more. It's the same confusion. They must celebrate a mythology. A mythology is being celebrated. So it still creates that confusion in the consciousness of the people. Because whether you is Armenian, Ethiopian, Greek Orthodox, all of them derive from a mindset that is there to control the people. So they create all of these little diversions and dangle some carrot in front of us so that we feel that what they tell us is what we know. But we're going to keep repeating it, you know, because the things that we believe we know was taught to us by people who believe them know. We know that. We have to know for ourselves, you know. Belief gone through the window. Knowing is what we are work with.
Bag of tricks.
Bag of tricks. May I tell you, the Congos featuring Cedric Martin. Well, you know, years ago, them did have a bully beef. I don't know if it reached Jamaica still from Ethiopia, named Rasta corn beef. And may I tell you, say, a whole heap of man, this is just because it come from Ethiopia, a whole heap of man go down in it, especially that 12 tribe, you know. I tell you, because you know, 12 tribe, they're not partial with certain things. I mean, I'm going to poke me really, me know the 12 tribe them, but when come on to meet, them no care. You see, when the bully beef come at Jamaica name Rasta beef. Oh gosh, man. The reason why I say that is because we tend to take this thing like Ethiopia is some place that is separate from the earth. Yeah, we feel that when we talk about Ethiopia, it's separate from the earth. That means that certain things not go on in Ethiopia. I remember the first time we go to Ethiopia. The first time we go to Ethiopia, I think the first time was me and Rebel and Cabo, Luton, Green, and Yassos. Anyway, one night, we go in a one club. I'll never forget how the club stay. It have a pure black and white tile all over. Black and white tile with woolly lighter. That's there in there. And that time Michael Jackson did a go and kick up Rumpus, man. Right. Me come back to Jamaica. I'm there for the radio. I tell somebody say we go to one club in Ethiopia. And Michael Jackson had taken on the place. Some Rasta man begs with me, call me, and ask me, what me talk about Michael Jackson playing at Zion. Me say, what you talk about, Bridget? Me say, oh, like the man them want burn me out, you know, like some man a Rasta. Because me come talk about, me go to one club where Michael Jackson play in a Zion. Can you believe that? That is how far the delusion there, you know. Yeah, man, it terrible. So sometimes when a man feels him get away from the illusion that was spread, him fall back and see him illusion that him create for himself. Like when me hear a Rasta man dead, me hear some Rasta man and say, well, why I'm gone to Zion. And I wonder what the hell them talking about. I never know, say, when Rasta dead, them go to Zion. I thought Zion was in Ethiopia at one stage. I thought it was in Israel. That land where them call Israel, as a matter of fact. But that is how people create illusion. When them feel say them come out of one illusion, them gone into the next illusion. That Rastaman dead and gone to Zion. I never hear no Rastaman did a talk say him have to dead for go to Zion. That is why I hear Christians say him have to dead for go to heaven. But now I hear Rastaman and say when him dead, that the Rastaman who dead say it. But when I hear Rasta dead and him say, well, give thanks, him live him life, him gone to Zion. I say, what the hell is happening here? Because I never come side Rasta to come talk about Zion is a place where dead Rasta go. No, sir. That's why I don't use those terminologies about Zion and all these things. Because Zion, the physical Zion, is a tourist attraction right now. Ask Rebel. Tourist attraction, the Mount Zion, the city of the great king. That them say, his foundation is in the holy mountain. The Lord loveth the gates of Zion more than all the dwellings of Jacob. The reason why I love the gates of Zion, and the man who was writing that, which was the chief musicians and all these things, is because that was where David sit down. And that's why the Lord loveth the gates of Zion more than all the dwellings of Jacob. Jacob is the 12 tribes. Him separate Judah from all of the tribes them. But I hear Rastaman talk these things and I say, so wait, that's so deep the illusion and so deep the madness is. So I come round here now and I hear some man talk about Rasmas. The 7th of January is Rasmas. I would have preferred celebrate Kojo birthday, you know. Believe you me. I would prefer celebrate Kojo birthday. Put me down as saying that non-apologetically. And even though we know where these so-called Maroons did, which right now we don't have to give them faith. Yes, them have to go come to some form of something. Because most of the rebellions that took place in Jamaica was quelled by these so-called people call themselves Maroon. Yes, and even in latter days that were not long ago in my lifetime, yeah. Mr. Lord Portland come at Jamaica. In a Portland. Lord Portland, Portland was named after a European name, Portland. Lord Portland come at Jamaica and the so-called Maroon, them re-sign the declaration. Then over the years, them never know a trick them get trick. Them never get no trick. Them know where them do that sign. Them never get no trick. But it's not that we really content with. We are content with how people create illusion. On top of illusion to satisfy them need to get rid of something where them fees keep them down. And then them create something else where keep them down even more. It sounds like madness when I hear a Rasta man I say Ratsmus. What the hell is Ratsmus? Don't a birthday I know about in this context where I work with you now is the 23rd of July, 1892. That is no Rasmus story, and neither the 7th of January is that no Rasmus story. I don't know that. I don't know, I never come in a Rasta come here. Rasta. When I sit down with Rasta, I hear them talk about Rasmus. And I call Haile Selassie birthday Rasmus. And I call the 7th of January Rasmus. And I celebrate. I never come in a Rasta, come here, Rasta celebrate the 7th of January. When I go to Kingston, but the reality is that the thing is deep, man. The thing is so deep. And the trick them just pile on top of that is scary. It's scary, very, very scary to hear certain things that talk. And you say, wait, Rasta man attack them foolishness. And where them get them something from? It's come like Babylon, go around the corner and catch them another way and scare them. Darkness seem to cover the world, man. May I tell you, rough. The greatest weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. The greatest weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. Steve Biko said that. Think you never live to see it? I see it. I see it, trust me. May I tell you, the things that is wangling in front of us. You know, a whole heap we get tricked and get caught into things that we try to fight against every day. We all find ourselves short because the thing is so surround us. 360 degrees around us. That is very difficult. But you have some little extremities that you really have to wonder is what is going on. Yeah, man, you have some extremities. It's like when I see Rasta woman address you now. I mean, with them breasts out a door and them have on them shots and them battle ride the same way like everybody else. That means I say, it's where I go on. It's where I go on. Because I don't know Rasta woman address with shots. Eat up hard and eat them crutches. I don't know Rasta woman address with them blows, with them breasts, them a bulge out. That man like me, I look on them. And me, I wonder is where I go on. Because everybody know I talk about is your heart, is your heart, is your heart. You see a man face, you don't see him heart. it's weird. It's hard to work with us, and it's not the totality of the person. You know, sir. Let them talk there, you know. Christian talk about, don't judge a man by him outward appearance, it's him heart. Well, you dress according to style, because your style is a character, is a personality. And now everybody, when them put on and clothes, them think first. People don't just draw on clothes, so them think first. If you go work, and you know, see you work going on the ground, and you know, see you go dodge up, you put on a certain clothes. If you go a formal party, you put on a certain clothes. And if you go a one dance, you put on a certain clothes. So, really and truly now, if I want to go a bingy, them I put on a certain clothes. I'm not really interested in the way the Christian are wear go for him church. Because that's for them thing. We are talking about now how we develop a cultural expression over the years. And we see it get usurped by some little other thinking where people are telling you say that no matter no and this no matter and that no matter. That's why I think broke down, because it start broke down from the little thing when no matter. Yeah man. It start broke down from the little thing when no matter, and it's no matter again. You know, see, someone I tell you say that I know that make that and I know that. So you see now, when you go out a certain place, now you can't tell the difference between a Rasta woman and a woman who just feels the way I just saw. Yeah, because the woman did address her all the while because she not have no convictions to certain things. But the Rasta woman is surrounded now by so much different things now that she starts to dress like how the woman where you used to hear people call she this and that and then start to tell you now say, don't judge her by what she have on. Don't judge her by what she have on. You mean when her shorts are itch up on her crotches and when her breasts are pushed out in front of her clothes, outside her clothes, you have to me say, no sir, I know sir, I'm not too old, but I know sir, so me come know it. And you see from the time it start to switch that way, everything fall down. Everything fall down. Yes, because you have nothing to say again to no one. Because you drop the ball. Yes, this is the cutting edge, and I refer me there with you. Going through the paces, yes. Collage of different understanding, different levels, different consciousness, it all intertwined into the African reality. A whole heap of people scared of them Africanness, but we will not relinquish saying it over and over and over and over and over and over and over. We spend most of our life speaking on the radio, well not most of my life still, 20 odd years on the radio, trying to get African people to wake up. Well, when I go say nobody no wake up, or when I go say, you know, nobody now listen to me. Because we could not talk so long and nothing happen. No, man. That's impossible. That would be impossible. So we'll talk about the different things now where we say, where people create for themselves, like the Nyabinghi. You know, the Nyabinghi is a woman from Uganda. And the Nyabinghi they have nothing to do with Bible and Christianity and everything and all these things. Nyabinghi is women chanting and man chanting for get rid of the British colonial masters out of Africa. Now, there was a time in history where them said the Haile Selassie was the head of the Nyabinghi. Them used to spread it around, says Haile Selassie is the head of the Nyabinghi, where these people is savages. We know say nothing never go so. We are talking about in Africa, we are talking about, not Jamaica. Now, when we just cite Rasta and go a Bingi, Nyabinghi, we never hear nothing about no priest and no churchical tabernacle and, you know, whole heap of Bible reading and all them things there. I just purify a bun and drum a chant all 21 days with the Bingi. Them teams that we don't have nothing else to do, we go a Bingi with a whole stack of food and you go to the Bingi and you see man plant. Man usually plant food just to reach the next Bingi. Serious thing we attack. So Nyabinghi was no priesthood and all these things. I just said that they will see that start happen to say you have all priests in a Nyabinghi and what the hell priests come in a Nyabinghi? Nyabinghi is not a church. Nyabinghi is not a church. Go forward into the Rastafari reality. I always say Nyabinghi is not a church. And now the church are priests are secret societies are priests. Well, a church. But we develop a system, you know, where we think so we are change, but we not change. The more change, the more it remain the same. Because man afraid for burn certain things again, burn certain things in a Nyabinghi, you know, because if you burn it also, if some man come tell you, say, no, you can't say that. Especially if all white people set up. If all white people set up at the big guy, say, for your burn, white boy. So man begs. Man get embarrassed. It's like when we just start, America got tour and we are saying it's not good for seeing a white man country too long. The black people, them in they feel embarrassed. Like, the black people, them look on the white people, them see if the white people, them feel away. Who care? But no, you're there, Nyabinghi, you know, I hear man, I go on like there's a church service in there. I'm not just go set up a church and just go on with the church thing. You know, Bobo a church thing. Them always have them priests and them this and that. But Nyabinghi are not priest. Nyabinghi are not church. Nyabinghi is not a church. But you have man who turn it in a church, you know. Yes, man who stand up run fire and burn fire again. The fire come like a background. Nyabinghi now is stand up round in a tabernacle and Bible open up and man a chant Psalms and a talk about priesthood and all them something there. And so we know Nyabinghi. So the thing get away twisted. Yeah man, it get twisted. That way I say just like some man locks. Where them twist up. This is the cutting edge and IRFM.
Hello, I'm Jared Taylor with American Renaissance. Most people think that the United States was, from the very beginning, dedicated to the idea of racial equality. Yes, they say there was slavery and segregation, but we were always working to fulfill the promise of all men are created equal. Of course, Thomas Jefferson, who wrote those words, was a slaveholder who didn't think the races were equal at all. But that phrase from the Declaration of Independence will haunt his memory forever. Not many people know that in 1776, there were black slaves in all 13 colonies and in the entire New World, from Canada to the tip of South America. In 1770, 40% of the white households in Manhattan owned slaves, and there were more slaves in the colony of New York than in Georgia. 9 of the first 11 presidents were slaveholders. The 2 exceptions were John Adams and John Quincy Adams. Jefferson thought slavery was a bad thing and that slaves would eventually be freed, but he wanted freed slaves sent back to Africa. There's a quotation from him on the wall of the Jefferson Memorial that goes like this: "Nothing is more certainly written in the book of fate than that these people are to be free." Well, in the original, Jefferson didn't stop there, adding, nor is it less certain that the two races, equally free, cannot live in the same government. That part has been conveniently forgotten. He wanted blacks deported and separated from whites so that they would be, and I quote, beyond the reach of mixture. James Madison agreed. He wanted the U.S. government to buy up every slave and deport them. After he served as president, he ran the American Colonization Society, which was set up to send blacks back to Africa. At the inaugural meeting of the society, Henry Clay explained its purpose, quote, to rid our country of a useless and pernicious, if not dangerous, portion of the population. Some of the most famous early Americans were not just members of the Colonization Society, they were officers. Besides Madison, there were Andrew Jackson, Daniel Webster, Stephen Douglas, William Seward, Francis Scott Key, Winfield Scott, and John Marshall. James Monroe worked so hard to help freed American slaves leave the country and establish Liberia that grateful Liberians named their capital Monrovia in his memory. The founders wanted blacks out and whites in. After the U.S. Constitution was ratified, the very first United States Congress had to decide who could be an American. They passed a law that said only, quote, free white persons could be citizens of the new country. Blacks couldn't be citizens even if they had been living in the colonies for generations. It took an amendment to the Constitution in 1868 for blacks to become citizens. And American Indians didn't finally become U.S. citizens until 1924. From colonial times on, there was strong opposition to mixed-race marriage. Massachusetts prohibited miscegenation from 1705 to 1843 and repealed the ban only because people thought it wasn't needed. They thought the idea of mixing was so repellent that no one would do it even if it were legal. Of the 50 United States, 44 at one time had laws prohibiting interracial marriage. White people did not want blacks to vote. In 1855, there were 31 states in the Union, but blacks could vote only in 4. All of them were in New England, and together they had only 4% of the total black population of the country. The federal government made sure that blacks couldn't vote in the territories. When Oregon joined the Union in 1859, its constitution stated that no black person could come live in or even visit the state. But Abraham Lincoln, the great emancipator, didn't he believe in racial equality? No. During the Lincoln-Douglas debates, he said this, I am not, nor ever have been, in favor of making voters or jurors out of Negroes, nor of qualifying them to hold office, nor to intermarry with white people. There is a physical difference between the white and black races which I believe will forever forbid the two races living together on terms of social and political equality. Lincoln agreed with Jefferson. He wanted to free the slaves and then deport them. In 1862, Lincoln had the Civil War on his hands, but he was so worried about what to do with free blacks that he named a commissioner on immigration and sent him off to look for countries that would take in the blacks he wanted to be rid of. He also sent a message to Congress calling for free blacks to be deported. U.S. presidents usually say only bland, non-controversial things. Well, this is what some of them said about race. James Garfield wrote, I have a strong feeling of repugnance when I think of the Negro being made our political equal, and I would be so glad if they could be colonized.
We'll go back to this clip here where I talk about the U.S. presidents and slavery, who is involved in it. Here we go.
Nor ever have been in favor of making voters or jurors out of Negroes, nor of qualifying them to hold office, nor to intermarry with white people. There is a physical difference between the white and black races which I believe will forever forbid the two races living together on terms of social and political equality. Lincoln agreed with Jefferson. He wanted to free the slaves and then deport them. In 1862, Lincoln had the Civil War on his hands, but he was so worried about what to do with free blacks that he named a commissioner on immigration and sent him off to look for countries that would take in the blacks he wanted to be rid of. He also sent a message to Congress calling for free blacks to be deported. U.S. presidents usually say only bland, non-controversial things. Well, this is what some of them said about race. James Garfield wrote, "I have a strong feeling of repugnance when I think of the Negro being made our political equal, and I would be so glad if they could be colonized, sent to heaven, or got rid of in any decent way." Theodore Roosevelt wrote that he had, quote, "not been able to think out any solution to the terrible problem offered by the presence of the Negro on this continent." As for Indians, he said, quote, "I don't go so far as to think that the only good Indians are the dead Indians, but I believe 9 out of 10 are, and I shouldn't inquire too closely into the health of the 10th. William Howard Taft once told a group of black college students, "Your race is adapted to be a race of farmers, first, last, and for all times." Warren Harding thought the races would always be separate. Quote, "This is not a question of social equality, but a question of recognizing a fundamental, eternal, inescapable difference." Harry Truman wrote, "I am strongly of the opinion that Negroes ought to be in Africa, yellow men in Asia, and white men in Europe and America." He also referred to the black servants in the White House as, quote, "an army of coons." Dwight Eisenhower told Supreme Court Justice Earl Warren he understood why Southerners wanted segregated schools. They didn't want, quote, "their sweet little girls to sit in schools alongside some big black bucks." He said that what he regretted most about his 8 years as president was sending federal troops to Little Rock, Arkansas to enforce school integration. It's not until John Kennedy, elected in 1960, that we have a president with views on race that just might be considered acceptable today. Because now, of course, we are supposed to think that race doesn't even exist. And even if it did, it would be immoral to base any decision on race. As I think I've made clear, this is a very recent way of thinking. From colonial times right up through the mid-20th century, virtually all white people believed race was an essential part of the American identity. They understood that people of different races are different and build different kinds of societies. They thought only Europeans would make the United States the kind of country that they would want to pass on to their children. So, there are two views. There is the consensus on race that lasted for more than 300 years, and there's today's view that races are perfectly equal and interchangeable, and that American can become black, Hispanic, Asian, Muslim, Hindu, anything at all. And not only will it be still America, it'll be better than ever. Well, which view is correct? Just look around. Read the news. I think you'll find the answer.
Yes, that was as they see it in America. Okay, so we're going to Pat Clark, Jamaica Roots and Culture.
Welcome to Jamaican Roots and Culture. I'm Pat Clark. Jamaica's cultural heritage has been manifested in various ways over the centuries. The names given by Jamaicans to their children are certainly a reflection of our motto, out of many, one people. To get a full understanding of the naming traditions in Jamaica, we must take a step back into the island's historic past. Family names in Jamaica are linked to a crossword puzzle of English, European, Indian, Chinese, and Middle Eastern origins. African to a lesser extent, as our enslaved ancestors were given English names by their owners after purchase or simply inherited the names of the plantations on which they were enslaved. In fact, in the early days, there was hardly any consideration given by the owners to attach a surname to their slaves. It was simply easy to give a name which demanded the shortest possible pronunciation: Peter, Tom, John, Blackie, Bob, and Nancy, just to mention a few. In most instances, the original African names were discarded as the owners refused to acknowledge any trace of the ancestry beyond the slave ship that brought the cargo to Jamaica. It is said that Africans did not use surnames, and so, for example, when a bookkeeper or some other itinerant estate English overseer fathered a child from a slave, he would give his first name to the child for keeps. If the child was adopted by the plantation owner, and there were such cases, the child would be given the name of the owner, although certainly not the inheritance. But the naming of babies was not always the automatic prerogative of the slave owners. The parents of black children of pure Negro blood, born in the barracks or on the cane field, had the choice of names, especially if the child was being baptized. In many cases, however, they'd give the name of the property owner or the overseer or someone they liked of whatever race or someone who had treated them kindly, but they still reserved the African choice of name. For the first name, sometimes mothers would use a single African name along with or alternately with the English or European name that was given to their children. Very old baptismal books record both the African slave name as well as the estate-given name. The most popular African names related to the day of the week that the child was born. So there was Kwashi or Kwashiba for those born on Monday. Kojo or Juba was born on a Tuesday. Kwaku or Kuba, born on a Wednesday. On Saturday, the very pleasant-sounding name of Kwanamin or Mimba were given. Although not in popular use today, some of these names still survive as nicknames or family names. In the olden days, African names were demonized by colonial masters. This was a way to strip things African of any respect among the slaves. Even to this day, if someone wants to suggest that you're behaving foolishly or that you lack intelligence, they may refer to you as Kwaku or Taku. But as the traditional African names became obsolete, so did also the English Jamaican names from the very staid Elizabeth, Joan, Mary, and Susan to the host of new Jamaican names such as Tajay, Aldine, Jahim, Roger, Kimani, D'Angelo, Demario, and on the female side, Alicia, Beyonce, Latanya, Lashonda, Shakira, and Amoya. Some of these names suggest a pullback to African origins. Some of the most popular family names in Jamaica today are Allen, Anderson, Bailey, Higgins, Jones, Powell, Brown, Smith, Williams, and Clark. An interesting point about family names and connections is that sometimes an entire village is populated by relatives of the same family, no matter what the difference might be in names. So you have to be careful how you call names when you're in certain communities, for the person you are speaking about may very well be the first cousin of the person you're speaking to, and you may get in trouble saying the wrong thing. Nowhere is a family clan relationship tighter and more widespread than in South St. Elizabeth. From Junction to Bull Savannah and Ballard's Valley to Southfield, they not only share family names, but they bear a strong resemblance to each other as cousins or relatives twice or even 3 times removed. If you live in the area long enough, you will reach the point where you can attach a name and profile to a district and with quick thinking can identify an Elliot from Junction, a Nemard from Stephen Run, a Blake from Littitz, a Powell and a Stevenson from Deep South, and a Barnes from Lucky Valley. Over in St. Elizabeth, there are still some members of the Barnes clan that are aware of the international fame achieved by Isaac Barnes. And now to end Jamaican roots and culture, here's our famous quotation from the Black diaspora. History is a clock that people use to tell their time of day. It's a compass they use to find themselves on the map of human geography. It tells them where they are and what they are. The words of John Henry Clark. For Jamaican Roots and Culture, I'm Pat Clark.
Yes, that's a very interesting vibes there with Pat Clark about the names them. Yes, and that man in St. Elizabeth. Certain things them just not teach you in a school, you know. Yeah, them not teach you certain things in a school. If we had known what we know now, then it would be a different time we're living in. If what we know now, we knew then, may I tell you, man, may I tell you, but it's never too late. Never too late. This is the cutting edge. Since I throw the comb away, I will probably can testify to what happened when we decide so we're going to throw away the comb. Friends and families, man. Friends and families. Serious thing.
Admitted making money from the slave business. By the 19th century, a fifth of the British elite had made their fortunes from slavery. Among them, David Cameron's distant cousin, General Sir James Duff.
We have to start over this. We have to start it over. We can't make it start this, so. And that's where it's supposed to start. Like, yeah, so it's supposed to start. But one of the people in here are going, yes.
In the 18th century, British merchants shipped around 3 million people from West Africa across the Atlantic to the Americas and sold them into slavery. They made £4 trillion from the unpaid labour alone. Portugal and Holland pioneered this slave route. Britain made a national fortune from it. Much of the Britain we know today was built with slave money. Ports, cities and canals. Even the Church of England has admitted making money from the slave business. By the 19th century, a fifth of the British elite had made their fortunes from slavery. Among them, David Cameron's distant cousin, General Sir James Duff. The Liverpool merchants who founded what's now Barclays Bank were slave traders. In 1833, when slavery was abolished, slave owners were paid £20 million in compensation for their loss of property. That's £2 billion today. More than 10 million people died as a direct result of the Atlantic slave trade. But the survivors got nothing. West Africa, nothing. Now 15 Caribbean states, including Jamaica, have launched the first united campaign for reparations from Britain, France and Holland. They have suggested compensation equal to the sum offered to slave owners in the 1830s, £2 billion. They also want an apology.
Don't blush.
Recognition of the historic atrocity.
They hid in caves. My great-grandmother was born in a cave to make sure that she was not born as a slave. And that is what Britain perpetuated.
But the British government has refused to give either. David Cameron's first official visit to Jamaica has amplified calls on Britain to agree to reparations. Some argue that if Britain did pay, it wouldn't be the elite footing the bill but the tax-paying working classes. Others have said this was 200 years ago, it's in the past, why should I pay now? In Jamaica, slavery was followed with a century of colonialism.
Most of the land is still in the hands of Europeans.
When the Brits left in 1962, 80% of the population were functionally illiterate. Male literacy remains 4 points below the global average. 19% of the country live in poverty. When historic crimes have generational victims, who should pay?
Basically, slavery and genocide has impacted not only the historical populations that were kidnapped from Africa, but also those of us who are the descendants of the enslaved today. And it's not only about trauma and multi-generational oppression. The whole discussion around wealth, there has been unjust enrichment to Britain, and there's also been unjust impoverishment, which has been passed on throughout the generations. So part of the legacy is this huge inequality that we see today between the descendants of the enslavers and the descendants of the enslaved.
And what about and psychological scars which have had societal effects, ongoing economic effects, to which you've already said? What are the psychological scars?
Well, part of that...
Intergenerationally,
it's not knowing who we are. It's a lack of connection. It's a lack of identity, a lack of nationhood, which is what makes us human beings, essentially. It's not being rooted. It's being considered minority populations when we come from global majorities, and it's about having second-class status and citizenship wherever we have been located as a result of this dispersal and depopulation that happened originally in Africa.
And there is a phenomenon as well that you believe really does exist, which is post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Yes, well, it's something that I've not coined, but many of our social theorists and psychologists and psychiatrists have been looking at some of the negative legacies that we have internalized, the internalization of racism, self-hate, anti-African sentiments and prejudice and discrimination, a loathing of ourselves, vacant esteem.
Self-loathing.
Self-loathing. Self-loathing in terms of not being proud of who we are, not being proud of our heritage, not being proud of our African ancestry, changing our looks to kind of emulate Caucasian beauty ideals. These are some of the real legacies today in terms of the psychology. We also have to look at the rates of mental health illness, and this has also been linked to that.
All roots back to slavery.
All roots back to that.
This is the Cutting Edge on RFM. The time is 16 minutes past the hour of 12 sorry, not 16, 6 minutes past the hour of 12 o'clock. Wait, a new program that? Afraid of that? What? Yeah. This is the Cutting Edge. We are continuing the journey into the mind of the people who relaxed, very relaxed, and don't understand that when you sit on the earth and move still, yes, you need to get up. If you is not a part of the solution, obviously it's a part of the problem. That is cliche talk. But I want them to know, say, all Africans is responsible for the liberation of Africa. All Africans. Whether you're upon the continent or whether you're there in this part of the world, yeah. Africa for Africans, those at home and those abroad, the echo and cry of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Still relevant in this time, yeah. So we come across and we're there, so... And it's kind of like we lose it. We'll heap of things we lose. We are celebrate 2 Christmas for 1 year. Can you believe that? And yeah, for people I said 25 December not the right Christmas, or the Ethiopian Christmas, or the right Christmas. Joke business. Joke business, because if you didn't know that the calendar in Ethiopia was fashioned after Julius Caesar. Yes. And them have a major religious icon named St. George, who killed the dragon. St. George. Yeah, Ethiopian name St. George. No, that is something we creep into the culture of Ethiopia. You know about Lalibela and these people, St. George, but people idolize and iconicize St. George. That weird thing. Remember that time named the Byzantine times, when most of the things them was Greek. Greek influence is very visible in Ethiopia. When we talk about visible, we are talking about in the so-called biblical time, like Lalibela and Axum, Greek things, very visible. When we get to the idea and the understanding of the interpretation of books, people would have you to believe that the Bible in Ethiopia different from the King James Bible. The same Bible, same talk, same ways, different interpretation, and more books. There's a group of books, I think it's 13 of them, where they removed from the King James Bible and call it the Apocryphas. Where you go to Ethiopia, you have enough more than the Apocryphas in the Bible. And still have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, who up to this day, nobody knows these people. Who is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? One man rise up and the rest copy or fight. Strange. Or we just accept these things just so. For face value, we just accept it. There's so much things the politician and the preacher give us and we just accept it. And we believe we know. We believe we know. You can't believe you know. And some people have to tell you, I know. You know, religious dogmas and religious beliefs and religious practices, him know. Like a man tell me, say, anytime him ask God for rain, him get rain. And me I say, wow. Come like God get lazy nowadays, him not have nothing to do. Yeah, man, him say anytime he want rain, God, him just say rain and just pray to God for rain and rain come. In other words, him tell me now, says true, him pray while the rain come. Look how much people are suffering on the earth. African people, children dying, babies dying every day. Malnutrition, malaria, all sorts of disease. And God find time for fall rain for one man who wants a rain, a true rain, and true pray while rain a fall. Want to the mothers who are bawl every day. The mothers who are pray every day that them picking not dead. From malaria, from malnourishment, from all sorts of disease. That is of no fault of theirs. Why these things is happening. No fault of theirs. These little babies, these little children. 1 year old, 2 year old who is dying daily, thousands, millions a year dying. But you sit down around the corner and where you pray to God to make you alright. And when you pray to God for win money, I don't just say yes. Pray to God that your man will left you. Pray to God that you pass your exam. When you pass the exam, you say, thank God. Pray to God that when you meet in an accident and the person who inside of the car when you're dead, you say, thank God it's not you. Wonder what the person's family, the family of that person who died must say. Yet still, a man who dead and a man say, boy, I saw God know where I do, why I'm take the child. Like a baby do have nothing to do with nothing. And him dead. And you sit around there and say, God know why I'm take the child. Maybe that child will go grow up for go be a murderer. All them foolishness that people thinking of them head. Warped, twisted minds of people who allow invisible, supernatural things to cloud them intelligence and them sensibility of reason. Sensibility of reason. Man, pray for see another day. You have thousands of people will not see the next day. Of no fault of their own. Look how much mothers crying for them children who them lose by gunmen who kill people and then say, it's God save him from not dying from a man gunshot because him kill one man with a gun and him never get shot at the time when him shoot the man. Him say, God dep on him side. Look how much men go to war every day, them war. Nation fighting against nation. How much people die in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Yemen, and all the other troubled areas where them talk about. Children dying every day from drone strikes, from bombs. All these people who die, most of them was praying to God. And the people who dropped the bomb was praying to God too. That's strange thinking, strange thought. The man dropped the bomb and said, yes, see there? God. The man who they underneath the bomb, him did a pray to God to Allah Akbar. Him shout before him blow up a place or blow up himself. Everybody believes that for them God is the God. So the man said there's no other name that man can be saved but through the name of Jesus. But I think when we find out say no man never named Jesus, we might talk about in the Bible. But a man configure history into make it become what him wanted to be and show it out there to the people them and make the people them feel say, look here, you're dead, you know, if you don't deal with that, you know. But you have been dying for 400 years, you are dying. Your ancestors die. And the guys, them who give you it, is benefited from it and is living a life quite comfortable too. And their children, living sweet and nice life. Them can afford to go to the best hospitals and eat the richest food and wear the best clothes. And go to church every Sunday and pray. Look at the difference in houses. Look at the people them who rally every day in them fineries. Them shoes where a bun them on them foot. Them ear pressed down on them neck back like what? Them gone to church to go get some blessing from the Lord. And when them done, them go right back into the poverty and the torment that them find themselves in before them go to the church. Same people, them go to the politician meeting and expect to get better every day. And then them go back to them yard in the same poverty-stricken places. The zinc fence and the leaking house, no water, no light. And gunshot of fire in them ears every night. But them pray every Sunday. And them pray every day, every night. Some of them, when them go to them bed and wake up every night, man, when them pray, them say, thank God for making me see another day. And then them son is missing. And them little girl is missing. And I say, where is my daughter? I cannot find my daughter. My daughter is another statistics in the how much hundreds that die every year from men who rape them. That little girl go to church every Sunday. And the mother hear that and start to bawl and cry. The pain of her daughter raped and murdered at the same time. Raped and murdered. But what she going to do now? More than go back to church again the next Sunday and have the sympathy of our church sisters and third brothers and the preacher. But the pain still linger. Because she pray every day. And she never knows that it'll reach our doorstep. The gruesome murder of her daughter. The gruesome rape of her daughter from a man who might be in the church too. that man, same man might be in the church too, praying every Sunday too. So, the suggestion is this. Who are you praying to? And why are you praying so intensely? And your life is getting worse and worse every day. As an African, as a black person. When you look upon the churches, them full up of pure black people. We make pure nice and a drop of ground and a roll all over the place. And the pastor up there, hose up him throat. And in the name of Jesus, the suffering continue. Because there's a better place that we are told that after we die, meanwhile the preacher and the politician have female right here upon earth. And you look at the conditions of the majority of people. Them conditions is not nice. But them have a way for hide that by putting on cheap clothes and makeup and false ear and fingernails and clerks, booty and tight pants and suits, coat and tie, and dress up like the sepulchres, like the coffin, like the grave, where you put nice wood to make the coffin, and then you put beautiful flowers, but inside is a dead body. And most of us are like the coffin, with just outer appearance, but inside of we burn and yearn for self. That humanity that we must find in ourselves, we can't find it. Because even though we look happy by dancing every Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and you have a next day, we dance away the troubles and the problems. That's how we think. So we dance it away. But we don't dance for nothing. Because it's still there we do when we open our eye. And those of us who claim so we go down on our knee for prayer, when we get up, the problem is still there. School open now. How much pray for the money that them can afford to buy the books. Just tell them to take the money and buy fingernail. And them take the money and buy ear. Chinese ear. Indian ear from black people head. So the fun was just a little, it's like a drug. Them get African people, like a drug. And you get high for a while, and then you come back down and realize, but wait, we still there on earth. When I do you so? I don't think somebody left. You're acting like a yo-yo. Up and down and up and down and don't know whether either you are going or coming. But that's the way of the system. That's the way of white supremacy. That's the way of them religions that them perpetuate and continue to perpetuate in the minds of African people. The greatest weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. Yes. It's a serious thing. Driving a fancy car and still live behind the zinc fence. Still living at the Kuala and the Swallow and the Walla. The Pocky. That must. I'm going black people do them things there, you know. Yeah, man. Them prefer have a pretty car and a nice house to live in. That's when them drive down the lane and park it. Everybody can see it, and them call that progress. And when you're going at them house, them have the TV on top of the fridge. That is really something else. Them mother live in the same filth where them did live before the nigger buy the car. Pretty car too, expensive car. The girl just say a while ago, you can have a brand new Mercedes Benz and your mother still living at the projects. For those of you who know what the projects are, it's a similar thing to the ghetto. High-rise buildings where black people live in now. Terrible. Terrible. And grandmother lived till she was 90. And she bury all her grandpicking them. Especially the man them, because the man them turn out to be gunman and criminal. And either them bridges them, shot them, or the policeman shoot them. And for those of us who don't get shot by police, or don't get shot by a friend, you're having a dose of food that is slow poisoning you. That your days will be numbered. As a teenager in the 20s, you look on all 50 and say it's old people that. But most youth in that age group not going to live to 50. Not going to live to 50. Because the amount of disease, you go in at the hospital now, children hospital, look where you see the people them, it's like war zone. War zone. Children hospital is like a war zone. The amount of little people that will sit down there try get service, not to mention those who are laid down in there. For some little disease where you wonder how them get it. And it's the same people them who pray and pray. And no matter how them pray, them still get the youth them, the things them, to make the disease come upon them. But them want to go to heaven. But them don't want dead. What heap of people, you say them want to go to heaven, but them don't want to die. If heaven was such a good place to go, everyone that take a shortcut, stand up on the highway. Just stand up on the highway. It's a weird thing. We're still in slavery. We're still in bondage. The greatest weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. Yes, so I heal up this one here, you know. I heal up this one here because we're there in the Bob Marley vein, you know. Yes, we're there in the Bob Marley vein. So, them song here create vibration all over the world. Whether it's the rhythm or the lyrics. But we know, say, this tune that we ever play is really Bob Marley rhythm and Marvin Gaye lyrics. Yes, Bob Marley rhythm, Marvin Gaye lyrics. So, here we go again. Power of science and technology, man. May I tell you? Cover version of Burning Spear song. Here we go.
The Zambian government, Bishop, sold the copper mines in northern Zambia to an outside consortium for $25 million. The copper mines for $25 million because they couldn't manage to keep them. The company that came in and took over the Zambian copper mines in 3 months made a profit of $75 million. They did not pay the Zambian government up front in cash for the mines. They were going to pay them over a period of time. Here we have this company that has an understanding of how things work, raised the money at the government's expense, took money that the company should have, the government should have been making, and gave it back to the government and said, we paid our debt in full, and give them now 0.006% of the proceeds of copper mining. When right outside the door there's people in poverty, people in not eating, people ignorant, people dying, high levels of AIDS, and what's the deal? Churches are full, people are praising God, Africans pray all night. Prayer is not in the success equation. Prayer is in the revelation equation. Decision making is in the success equation. You have to make a decision and be sound. We have to be disciplined and make sure we go and get what God has called us to get. You can be full of the Holy Ghost, but you can still be ignorant. But as for me and my house, I will get understanding. I will get understanding. I will get understanding. It's time now for us to rise up and be counted. This year, the country of Ghana turns 50. Ghana was born the same year we were born, in 1957. Ghana and South Korea had their independence dates on the same day, the same year. But look where South Korea is. South Korea is by nature not a Christian nation. South Korea by nature are Buddhists. China, which is the next large world economy, they have stated that in the next 10 years, 20% of the Chinese people will be multimillionaires. That means almost 450 million Chinese will be millionaires. They are not Christians, they are Buddhists. The Japanese are Shintoists. Those in Indonesia and Malaysia are Muslims. It's not about praising God and hallelujah and a great thank you, Jesus. It's about possessing an understanding as to how things work. Success equation. Prayer is in the revelation equation. Decision making is in the success equation. You have to make a decision and be sound. We have to be disciplined and make sure we go and get what God has called us to get. You can be full of the Holy Ghost, but you can still be ignorant. But as for me and my house, I will get understanding. I will get understanding. I will get understanding. It's time now for us to rise up and be counted. This year, the country of Ghana turns 50. Ghana was born the same year we were born, in 1957. Ghana and South Korea had their independence dates on the same day, the same year. But look where South Korea is. South Korea is by nature not a Christian nation. South Korea by nature are Buddhists. China, which is the next large world economy, they have stated that in the next 10 years, 20% of the Chinese people will be multimillionaires. That means almost 450 million Chinese will be millionaires. They are not Christians, they are Buddhists. The Japanese are Shintoists. Those in Indonesia and Malaysia are Muslims. It's not about praising God and hallelujah and a great thank you, Jesus. It's about possessing an understanding as to how things work.
"15 things poor people do that the rich don't." 15 things poor people do that the rich don't. Number 1, poor people watch a lot of TV. Let me put it this way. If you have the time to watch reality TV, you're probably poor. It's always amazing how much time poor people waste on meaningless television. It's one of those distractions that grabs you and doesn't let go. If you know which celebrity is dating who, and if you're watching TV shows every week as the episodes come on, if you have a favorite news channel, you're probably watching too much television. Hence why your life is the way it is. Let us explain. Celebrity gossip and buzz offers no value to your life. It only serves the celebrities. Rich people aim to be on TV instead of watching it. You might say, but Alux, I'm watching The Big Bang Theory, which is a really funny show, and it helps me disconnect. That's exactly the issue. You disconnect from your problems instead of dealing with them and getting them out of the way. There are rare occasions where, in the words of John Lennon, time you enjoy wasting is not wasted time. But really think about it. Should sitting inside watching a screen be something you really enjoy doing? Before we move forward to the second thing poor people do, let me explain what we meant by having a favorite news channel. You might say that the only good reason to watch TV is to be aware of what's happening in the world, staying informed. The problem we're seeing with this is that TV stations are always biased in order to fit their own agenda. Instead, use the power of the internet to get a quick glimpse of what the world is like today and move on to do your own thing. Number 2, poor people eat fast food. Health is really important, and many poor people have no interest in knowing what's in their food, what an actual healthy meal should look like, or barely know anything about nutrition. Poor people are blasting their brains with large quantities of sugar and fats with no nutritional value. They are actively ruining their bodies, and as an effect, they cannot perform at 100% of their potential. If you're not healthy, all aspects of your life are directly affected. You'll suffer physically, mentally, professionally, and even romantically. Number 3, poor people buy clothes or products that are on sale. Let me put it this way. The only thing you should buy on sale are stocks. While poor people are looking to conserve or stretch the little that they have, the rich are focused on increasing their incomes. Just think about it. The clothes that end up being on sale are the ones that people who could afford to pay the full price didn't want. By buying clothes on sale, you're just making sure that you're looking exactly like someone who can't afford to pay the full price. Number 4, poor people wake up later than rich people do in their early years. Poor people are often lazier than the rich in the early days. We know that some of you will be bothered a lot by the previous statement, but statistically, it's the truth. Someone who used their youth to grow themselves is a lot less likely to remain poor later on in life. Instead, if you wake up late, don't educate yourself, waste time on meaningless activities, at one point you'll find yourself so far behind what the world needs from you that you'll end up miserable. The paradox is that people who do not focus on growth in the early days end up working a lot harder with little success rate later in life just to stay afloat. We've done an entire series on inspiring people on our channel, and almost all of them, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, and more, wake up early. You can check the series out in the top right corner. Number 5, poor people are really into sports. The truth is, unless you're a professional athlete or an owner of one of the teams, there's really no reason for you to watch sports. It's the same with television. It's escapism from your current reality. Think of it like this. You're putting yourself in a position where you as an individual have no impact on the outcome of the game. Zero impact. This behavior then sticks with you, and you end up being a spectator in life instead of being a player or an owner. And that's when you start criticizing other people when you yourself haven't done anything better. Number 6, poor people don't shower as often as rich people do. Initially, we thought this was just a made-up fact, but it turns out to be true. And amazingly, it explains a lot when you really think about it. Most of the jobs today are in the service industries, where human contact is a must in order to have a successful exchange of value. People who don't have good personal hygiene will, in time, be less successful than their counterparts. People tend to trust them less. People want to spend less time in their presence, and all of this has ramifications in their personal life. If people don't like you and don't want to be around you, what kind of partners will you attract? Exactly. It might seem ridiculous, but the first step to success should be an early morning shower. Number 7, poor people blame others for their misfortunes. How many people do you know that have some sort of excuse or blame other factors for not being successful yet? There are some things that are out of our control, but 99% of your life is on you. Remember that you are in charge of your life. You are in charge of your relationships. You are in charge of your health. You want these to change? Do something about it. Life is not what happens to us. It's how we react to what happens to us. When something bad happens, the poor choose to victimize themselves, while the rich look into it, study it. They seek to find out what happened, why it happened, and how they can protect from it in the future. While one assumes the position of vulnerable victim, the other uses it as a growing point. Number 8, poor people have no money saved. One of the differences between poor people and the rich is that the former don't get ready for what's next. Having money put aside allows for growth. Let's say something bad happens. If you have money put aside, the problem is solved and you can resume your life. If you don't and the situation is urgent, what do? You either liquidate an asset like your car, house, etc., or you can take out a loan. For the rich, when the situation is over, they're left in the same position minus the savings. While for someone who's poor, their lifestyle has been dramatically hit or now belongs to the creditor. Now, let's look at the exact opposite. An opportunity arises. Those who have money put aside now have the chance to expand their lives while the other can't afford to take full advantage of this opportunity. That's why the rich are growing richer while the poor are getting poorer. Number 9. Poor people use credit cards or take out loans for useless things. One of the main differences between rich and poor is how they make use of credit. The rule is simple. If you take out a loan to buy something that doesn't generate more money than the loan, don't take it. It's that simple. You should only use credit if what you'll be using it for is an investment. Want to take out a loan for a large TV? Don't. Want a loan to buy that new Supreme gear? Don't. Want to use credit cards to get the new iPhone? Don't. Unless you're flipping the Supreme gear for profit, or you're using your iPhone to develop a new app to grow your business, these items should not be on your credit. Instead, earn the money and then spend it. You'll learn more about this on number 12. Number 10. Poor people tend to have more kids and earlier in life. The truth is, kids are really, really expensive. We all know how fun it is to make them, or at least practice making them. But people get stuck up to this point. They don't think it's true. Just to give you a sense of perspective, if you're living in one of the more developed countries, raising a child will cost you approximately $250,000. Because of a lack of education, bad environment, and other factors, poor people have, on average, more children and at a younger age than their rich counterparts. While the rich wait a couple of years until their standards of living improve in order to assure the right environment and prime conditions for their child to flourish, the poor just go ahead with it. Once the baby comes, the struggling begins. Just so they can stay afloat and progress beyond barely surviving is almost impossible to achieve. Number 11. Poor people do not do regular checks with their doctors. We've touched on the importance of health in the past, but this is an especially important point. Poor people do not get themselves checked regularly. Let's say by mere chance you end up having a difficult disease, let's say cancer. If you do regular checkups, you'll discover it in early stages, making the treatment possible at a lower cost. If, on the other hand, you neglect to do so, you might discover it only when it's too late. It will cost both you and your entire family a fortune, and no matter how much money you have, you might still lose your life. Number 12. Poor people spend money before they get it. One of the biggest dangers in life is spending money before you have it. The second you start borrowing money or acquiring expenses before you're able to pay them, your life starts to spiral down. If you don't have money for something that you're willing to part with without affecting your life, then you can't afford it. Go back to work and then get it. Number 13. Poor people surround themselves with other poor people. True ALXers know that you are the sum of the 5 people you hang out with most. If you're surrounded by 4 poor people, guess who's the 5th? One of the ways people make sure they stay poor is by affiliating themselves or hanging out with other poor people that reinforce their poor beliefs. You need people around you that will inspire you and push you further, that are doing incredible things themselves, whose success will only motivate you to exceed your current reality. If you're hanging out with the same people you did when you were young, you might want to double check. Don't be afraid to step away from a crowd and move on to something better. If you don't, your potential will probably be crushed by those who want to feel better about their miserable lives by making sure you suffer the same fate. Number 14. Poor people never follow through on their ideas or potential. You're not able to control who your parents are, where you were born, or the way society treats you. The only thing you can control is the amount of hours you put into your dream. Every single person alive only has 24 hours per day, and yet some do a lot more than others. If you dedicate yourself to learning and implementing more about what you're passionate about, it's only a matter of time until you reach success. You've heard that 9 out of 10 businesses fail in their first 3 years. Well, do you know how many businesses fail because they never got started? The answer is all of them. If you have an idea, work on it. Put it out. Get feedback. Improve it. Launch again and again and again. It took us 3 years of writing thousands of articles on alux.com before we decided to take the jump and make videos here on YouTube. Number 15. Poor people believe that others should help them reach the top. The world doesn't owe you anything. Nobody does. Believe it or not, you're in this by yourself. You are in charge of what happens in your life. The thing is, everyone believes when they're young that they're going to be successful, but then reality happens. This world we're living in rewards only the best of the best. Those that never quit. Those that keep learning, keep adapting, and understand that nobody will solve their problems for them. Face them head on, and along the way, you might meet people who feel the same way and might share parts of the journey with you. Otherwise, you'll just be a part of that majority that's meant to fail. We know this video was pretty long, but we believe that maybe this video will help you in your journey.
This is the cutting edge. So give thanks, give thanks. We will be back here little more from 2 o'clock to 5:45 with the stepping razor, the art of war. So we're going to play with the last song. And it's going to be the last song we're not going to be the last song, but we want to play this for the people who stay with me and listen. We hope that we said something that can motivate you. So here we go.